my beautiful ladies and gentlemen, how are you? Just wanted to let you know my internet is a little bit unstable. So, my beautiful Christa, if something happens, just continue talking. I will be coming back. I see I am on airplane mode, so I'm going to try and fix it. But can still hear me? You can still see me?
I am so fortunate I can see and hear you, and I'm very blessed that you asked me to come on today. So thank you.
Oh, wow. So, my beautiful ladies, especially on all the networks that we are going live on, and then also on the Diamond Beauties Forever group, and all the beautiful family and friends from Christa that's on the YouTube channel, and also some of you that are on E360 TV, I want to say welcome, welcome. I am truly excited to introduce to you this extraordinary lady, Christa Rose. She is going to blow your socks off. Blow your socks off. The first time I have chat with her, had a coffee chat with her, and I could not believe how amazing this girl is. She's even more amazing than you will ever imagine. So that's what I wanted to say. So my beautiful Crystal, thank you so much for coming through. And you are the first Soul of a Diamond for this year. I'm so excited. Just before I'm going to ask you to comment, I just want to say, my beautiful ladies and gentlemen, if you give us love by a comment, I'm not going to do a shout out, but I will show you a comment at the bottom. But we will continue with Krista's story. Okay, now I'm ready. Krista, please introduce yourself.
Well, thank you so much, and I'm honored to be here. My name is Christa, and I'm a certified coach practitioner. I'm a speaker, and I'm an author of Amazon #1 best-selling book, Skip the Pain, Experience the Pleasure. Cut the crap that's holding you back so you can live the life you love. I realize that people normally live unfulfilled lives. So I work with them so they can discover their true potential and uncover their passion and their purpose.
I love it. And you know, when you gave me your book title the first time, I thought, what? Crap. You said crap in front of your book. I love it. It was a beautiful. How did you come up with that title?
I wanted to be real. Most people say, stop looking at the past and move to the future, which is true. But when you want to speak real and get that rapport. So you cut the crap that's holding you back so you can live the life you love. I wanted to be authentic, and that's my main message is to be authentic.
Oh wow. I love it. So my beautiful Krista, I made a beautiful present for you, a video, and I lovingly call it produced by Mwah Productions because you know I do love to kiss everyone I'm talking to. Even when I do messages, always say Mwah. Do you know what Mwah stands for?
What does it stand for?
So it's my meaning when my husband told me about almost 3 years ago, Sanet, stop kissing everyone. I said, but my husband, it is moments with authentic hearts. And he said, oh, that's so beautiful. You can keep it. So I'm still mwah, everyone. So here is the video by Mwah Productions.
You. Hi, I'm Christa Rose, and I'm a certified coach practitioner. I'm a speaker and author of Amazon #1 best-selling book, Skip the Pain, Experience the Pleasure. Cut the crap that's holding you back so you can live the life you love. I do share some of the experiences I went through, surviving head-on collision, holding my husband as he passed away in my arms, and I'm battling a chronic illness. I may have had a near-death experience, but I don't focus on the past. Focusing on the past is like writing with a broken pencil. It's pointless. I show you how the secret of life is your mindset and the way you talk. So from working with me, listening to my speeches, or reading my book, it will either change your life or make you feel lighter and you'll have a good laugh. Either way, it's a win-win situation.
So my
That was
beautiful
beautiful.
I'm not sure if he did play the whole way, but I am going to ask you to start with your story. I will be quickly going off camera and I'm going to ask my husband if he can put us on the generator because our power is we are having load shedding here in South Africa and that's the reason for the power. So will you please start with your story? I will be back in a few seconds.
Perfect. So yes, it did seem to cut out a little bit, and I would love if you can replay it, but I would absolutely be thrilled to tell you a little bit about my story. So, yes, my childhood was a bit unstable, but I don't need to focus on that. But there is one particular story that does stick out with me. So, when I was a little girl, I remember overhearing my mom announcing how she found out she was pregnant. So my brother was only a few months old, and back then there was a thought that if you were nursing your baby, you couldn't get pregnant. And I remember overhearing her telling other people that it's not true when you're nursing a baby, you can't get pregnant. It's a mistake. And what did I hear? Is you're a mistake. And I carried that with me throughout my life. You're a mistake. And if you're a mistake, that means I'm broken. So I tried extra hard to do as much as I can to prove that I was worthy. So I went to school, I fast tracked through school, I studied nutrition, and when I got out, I met the love of my life. I got married, and a year later, I had my son. And then I had my dream career in nutrition at a hospital. And it's funny because I worked so hard to get that position. I would do anything. I would take extra shifts. I would work late. I would work weekends. I did everything at home. I would go in early, stay late, and I wouldn't stop. And I think the universe was telling me, Krista, stop. So it was at that point that one day I was driving home and it was the first day of spring. And who would think here in Canada, Ontario, we would get snow? So normally we see beautiful flowers, but we happened to have a massive snowstorm that day. And I was about to go into my car. And before I left, I said bye to all the staff and told them to be careful driving home. But as I started driving home, I noticed that my tires started slipping on some ice underneath me. And then I felt my car spinning around. And I looked and there was lights, and the lights got bigger and brighter. And I realized, oh my goodness, a full-size pickup truck is coming directly at me. And within 3 seconds, everything stopped. Yes, that head on collision happened. That full size pickup truck hit me, and at the same time, it seemed like my whole life hit me and seemed to stop. It took a few months for me to recover. That was physically, but emotionally, I started spiraling down. I started doing anything and everything to please other people because I was so worried about people thinking I wasn't good enough. I couldn't do what I could before. But then I started having more and more pain. So I took more and more pills. I went to my doctor. I mean, I was in a car accident, so it was easy to get pain medication, but I didn't realize I was becoming addicted to them. And I was getting addicted because I wanted to stuff down those feelings of all that pain and all those memories that were hurting me. So I started opening a glass of wine and opening a bottle. And because it's not good to keep things bottled up, right? Okay, that's maybe not a good joke, but I did start drinking some wine with my medication, and that didn't turn out very well. So I did break down and I went to see a counselor. So I was very nervous going into this counselor because I never wanted to ask anybody for help. And when I went in there, she was a very nice, sweet lady. And I sat down and she looked at me and said, okay, how can I help you? And I started talking a little bit about my car accident. But I noticed I started talking about some things from childhood. And that's when she stopped me. She said, "Hold on, Krista. Can you wait a second?" And I thought, okay. She said, "Right now, if I don't take my break, the smokers are going to go take their break. And if the smokers don't take their break, I'm not going to get my break. So if you can sit here for a few minutes so I can go get my break. While I'm here, here's some ice for your neck and here's a book for you to read." And she left and I looked at the wall and I thought, I'm not worth her time. I'm not worth the smoker's break. I'm just not worth it. And when she walked back in, she saw the tears starting to run down my face. And immediately, of course, I had to smile and look fine. And she's like, "Are you okay?" I said, "Yes, it's a pain from the whiplash," but it wasn't. We continued on, and I sucked it all up and I smiled and I told her whatever I thought she wanted to hear. And at the end, I said, "So am I cured?" She looked at me and laughed. She said, "No, it's going to take more sessions, except check with your insurance company to see how many sessions you have left." I thought about it and I never did make another appointment. But after that, I started spiraling down some more and I realized I was in denial. And for me, that meant I didn't even know I was lying. And I was lying to myself because the truth was that I was seeking validation for others to say I was worth it, that I wasn't a mistake, that I wasn't broken, and I didn't have to step down that pain. So, with the help from my doctors, I went and got real help, went to recovery. And that's when I started to get some coping mechanisms to live out life, which was fantastic because I needed those coping mechanisms. It's weird and amazing how God, the universe, spirit, source, whatever you want to say, works in your life. Because 1 year, 1 month, and 1 day later, my husband passed away in my arms. So we only knew for 2 weeks. We noticed he was getting a little bit tired, he was sick, and he wasn't acting his normal self. And I kept bugging him to go to the doctors. And when we finally got to the doctors, they did some blood work and a bone marrow biopsy and said, "This is the saddest news I had ever had to give a young couple." They said, "You have a very aggressive form of leukemia and you've had it about 3 to 4 months, and the life expectancy is maybe 4 to 6 months, and that's treated." So we did try chemo, and he started going down lower and lower, but we begged for one more day at home. So they did let him come home, and we raced through those 24 hours, and it was not because we were having fun. We went through those 24 hours so he can show me every passcode, every piece of paper, everything we wanted to do within that house. Even though we knew he was going to beat it, we wanted to make sure I was prepared. In those moments, he gave me the best gift ever. He looked at me and said, "Krista, I'm going to fight, but if I don't make it, I want you to know it's okay to get remarried." And I said, "No, are you kidding? I'm not going to get remarried. You're going to make this. Our son's going to have a father." "No, no, no, no." And he stopped and calmed me down. He said, "Remember last year when you were in your car accident? What would have happened if you would have died when you wanted me to get remarried?" And I jokingly said, "Well, as long as she wasn't prettier than me." And we both had a good laugh, knowing that absolutely anybody would have been a perfect match for him. So that was such a gift because I got that call from the hospital, that nightmare call that says, "Your husband's starting to go into a coma and he's starting to have seizures." So I rushed to the hospital with my in laws and he went down for a CAT scan. And when he came out, I held him in my arms and I kept saying before, "Keep fighting, keep fighting." And I put my head right to his head and I felt him saying, "I am so sorry, Krista. I'm trying to fight this, but it's so hard." And I don't know what overcame me, but I said, "It's okay. You're not giving up. You showed me what true love was. You gave me the gift of our son. And if you have to let go, it's okay. You can let go. And at that moment, I felt his transition from this life to the next. And I felt the most intense love you can ever imagine. It took a few minutes for other people to notice to pull me off him. And that's when he was definitely pronounced dead. And humanly, I realized, wow, I'm now really going to be alone. But I focused that energy and attention all on my son. You see, I wanted to make sure that I could still be independent. I didn't want to rely on anybody, so I took on more and more work. And it's funny because I said, I'll never get married and I'll never have kids again. Well, never say never, because 7 years later, I met my best friend and we did get married, and I had two more children, which I'm extremely blessed with. So I also learned there were several other lessons with grief. Grief just isn't about losing someone big like your husband. Grief can also be like losing maybe all your pictures on your phone for some people. But for us, one time my son and my kids begged me for a hamster. A hamster, that's all I needed. So we said, okay, we went ahead and got a hamster. And unfortunately, this hamster they called Waffles didn't have a long life. So Waffles passed away. And my son looked at me and said, are we going to have a funeral? And I thought, what? I was just happy we were going to be rid of all that stinky poop. So I said, of course we're going to have, a funeral. So right away, I went to our local donut shop and I bought a 10-pack of small donuts. And I went through the drive through and I handed them to my kids. And as they ate them, I saw their eyes start glossing over and realizing they were eating out of their hamster's coffin. So we went home, and yes, we put Waffles in the tiny donut box and we buried it. And we talked and laughed about how Waffles would crawl all over you and do gymnastics on the wires of his cage. And we reminisced about the different stories. And we buried this little tiny donut box and they cried, but they were able to go through the stages of grief. And even though they did, we'll never forget it. Every time we go by a donut shop and see a little box of donuts, from then on, we never did buy one. And that's okay. I also learned the importance about giving the benefit of the doubt. There's this one time, it was a year after my husband passed away, and I was driving to get a balloon. You see, every year on the anniversary, I try to start a tradition of having a helium balloon and sending up a little message and putting it up to heaven, especially for my son. It was something we could do special together. So I went into this store, I got a parking spot, and all of a sudden I heard honk. And I looked out, and this guy raced out of his car and he looked at me and said, you B word, you stole my parking spot. And I was completely confused because I definitely didn't do it on purpose. So I got out of the car and I looked at him and said, I am so sorry. I definitely did not mean to do that. And he continued yelling. He says, you're so selfish. All you're doing is thinking about yourself. And I started walking into the store to get that balloon. Tears were streaming down my face, but it wasn't because of the parking spot. It was because it was the last nerve, that last string he plucked out of my heart because I was so devastated that it was the anniversary of losing my husband. But you see, he didn't know that. All he looked at was this lady with a boy, probably in a rush, going and stealing his parking spot. But if you really knew what I was going through, if you really knew that I was going to buy this balloon that meant so much to us to send off to heaven, I'm sure he may have acted differently, or at least I hope so. So, my message there is really to give people the benefit of the doubt because you never know what's going on with someone behind closed doors. So, the next time someone maybe cuts you off in traffic or maybe steals your parking spot, remember, maybe there's something more they're going through. Maybe there's something more that you don't know about. Another lesson I learned is about how to be grateful for things. I used to look at things that I didn't have a lot, and that would always put me in a negative sort of energy. And it was one day I was driving home and I noticed my windshield was completely splattered with bug guts. Yes, it looked like I went through a bug cemetery. And I try to put the windshield wipers on, and life lesson, don't do that because it just smears those bug guts all over. So I went into the house and I went to grab something and I realized there's a downpour and I was in a rush. And I looked and said, great, it's raining. But you know what? I was never so thankful for that rain because when I went back into my car, guess what? My windshield was clean and all those bug guts were gone. So even the smallest thing, like rain, we could be thankful for. The smallest thing, like our breath, we can be thankful for. And I can speak to that because about 20 years after my husband passed away, I started having all these strange symptoms. Now, when I was younger, I was bit by a tick and had this bullseye rash and was diagnosed with Lyme disease. Back then, they didn't know a lot about it, so I was put on some antibiotics, which was fine, but it was only for about 10 days. Now I know you have to be on it for several months. But over the course of the years, I started having different symptoms, body aches, and different things like that. But they became more and more serious. So all of a sudden, I started having these seizures out of nowhere. I started having hallucinations. I started having really bad muscle spasms. Next thing you know, I was fainting and end up in the ICU for days and days. And the neurologist would come in, and I was a big puzzle piece. No one knew what happened to me. I remember this one particular time I was unconscious, but suddenly I can actually hear the people say, oh my goodness, we don't know if she's going to make it. And I felt this hard tube going down my throat, but I could almost see it as it was happening. And then everything went black. But black was a color, then everything went dark. And maybe it was medication, maybe it was drugs, maybe it was a near death experience. I don't know, and I don't decipher. I can only tell you what I experienced. So I ended up going to this place where there was this beautiful, bright white light, and all I felt was love. And I knew my first husband was there, and I had this sense of love surrounding me, and I seen everything in my life, and all I knew was I needed to go back to my body. But I was fine where I was. I liked all this feeling of the greatness and love, but I knew there was a higher purpose. So all of a sudden, I felt physically this hard plastic piece in my throat, and I could feel the hard surface of the bed underneath me. And I woke up and I thought back, was that a dream? I don't know. Like I said, I don't interpret. Take it for what it is. But for me, it was definitely something special. And I have absolutely no fear of death. But I do know I'm here for a special reason. When I woke up, they started doing more and more tests. I had different spinal taps. I had a bone marrow biopsy. I started having hypothyroidism. My body started shutting down. Suddenly, a special neurologist sent my blood work to a specialist who tested for rare diseases, and they found out I had something called anti-GAD. It's a very, very rare disease, like 1 in a million. And when I was told that, I was happy because they figured it out, but I thought, okay, what the heck is this? And basically, what it is I don't produce enough GABA, which controls your central nervous system, which basically brings it down to I wasn't able to talk. I started losing the ability to walk. I became paralyzed. I was having a hard time thinking. I couldn't zip up my own zipper. And at one time, I spiraled down into a catatonic state, which means you're in a state that you can't do anything, but you can still hear and see everything that's happening around you. So that's one message I want to give someone. When you see someone either in a coma or in a catatonic state, or you're not thinking that they're there, trust me, they can hear you. And be careful because don't complain about the amount of times you're working or the extra shift you're taking because all it did was make me feel invisible. Suddenly, I started getting over that and I started becoming able to talk a little bit and move a little bit. And the more I did this, the more I got better. And then they discovered some treatments. Some of the treatments were this special blood infusion called IVIG, and it helped me to calm my central nervous system and start having the ability to relearn how to talk and how to walk. And although I started getting really depressed, people would say, Krista, you're so strong, keep going. And I used to try to smile and be that hope that they wanted me to be. But sometimes I felt like I was going through a drive through and saying, yes, I would like a coffee with 2 milk and a side order of a will to live. And
Oh, wow,
how
wow.
I felt inside. But I kept all that in my mind as a secret. And what I really had to do was I had to focus on my mindset. And one thing I discovered was mindset is really the secret to life. Yes, from the moment you wake up in the morning to the moment you lay your head down on the pillow at night, everything in between you is up to you. Yes, you create your reality. And I made that finally about me. I realized if I was going to walk and talk again, I was going to have to believe it. So I did. I started changing the way I thought. I started every time my emotions went down, I got a little bit depressed or I felt a little bit sad and wanting to give up. I had this acronym said wait and it stood for what am I thinking? And
I love it.
I would check my thoughts, and my thoughts would usually be negative. I would be replaying what happened yesterday, or would be saying, I can't do it. Look about the amount of times that I fell. So I would check my thoughts and say, no, what do I want to think instead? That's a little secret. Remember, what do I want to think instead? And you have that power. So, what did I want to think instead? I wanted to think, I'm going to be able to walk again. And I'm starting to do my exercises and I'm getting better. And I had to also change the way I was talking. Have you ever noticed when you get in a group of people, you just start complaining? You don't even know why you're complaining. Someone says, how are you doing? And immediately we say, well, I got a sore shoulder, or it was terrible, or some alien stole my teenager, or my mother, or my father, or just complaining. And I realized, you know what? Life is too short to spend time complaining. So, with my acronym WAIT, I also used it for why am I talking?
Oh,
So,
wow.
I use that because I would check in when I started even beating myself up. You never notice how many thoughts you have in a day and all the negative self talk we do to ourselves. It wasn't until I was actually with a coach and she urged me to bring in a picture of myself as a baby, which I thought was weird, but fine. So I rushed in and I was late, and I'm never late. I'm type A. And I also noticed I had a stain on my shirt, and I thought, oh, great, I'm such a slob. So I sat down, I handed her the picture, and I don't know, I thought we were going to talk it out. But she had this challenge for me. She says, Krista, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to say out loud everything you say to yourself inside your brain, everything you
Wow.
tell yourself in 24 hours. Well, that was easy. I thought right away, well, I'm a slob. Look at, I have, stain on my shirt, or, oh my goodness, people are going to think I'm such a mess because I left dirty sinks or dirty dishes in my sink, and I don't even remember if I, um, made my bed or vacuumed or picked up those pillows. And I went on, and my hair is so frizzy. And I went right back to the beginning thought of, you know what? I'm a mistake. I'm a burden. And then she stopped me there. And she put this picture in front of me on the chair in front of me. And it was a picture of me as my younger self, the one she asked me to bring in. And she says, I want you now to tell that little girl those same things. And I couldn't, because I started off saying, you're a slob. And I'm like, no, you're beautiful. Look at your beautiful curls. Look at your beautiful smile. I couldn't say those same things to that little girl. You
Wow.
know why? Because that little girl was the younger version of me. And I never realized how much I still hung on to all those negative images that I had of myself. But when it's put right in front of you, it changes everything. So she asked me, would you say these things to your best friend? And I said, no. So I had to start learning to be my own best friend. So from that day on, I learned the secret called reframing. So I started reframing everything I possibly could. For instance, if I would come on to the show, instead of saying, Sine, I'm so sorry for being late. I can't believe I'm late. I'm so sorry. How does that feel? Instead, I would change it to, Sine, thank you for waiting for me, and continue on.
I
Instead of
love it.
saying, yeah, it's simple reframing. Instead of saying what you don't want, say what you do want. And you can even take it a couple steps further, I found. And this is how I started manifesting many things into my life. So it wasn't that I only wanted to buy a car, I wanted to drive my car. So I started picturing and saying, I want to drive my car, and be very specific. And the more I started doing this, the more I noticed I stopped complaining, I wasn't gossiping, and people around me noticed there was a shift. I was able to start walking with more ease because I was telling myself, even though right now I'm walking with a walker, I'm doing my exercises so I can get stronger so I can walk. And guess what? I started walking with a cane. And I started walking with a cane, and I was still a little bit embarrassed. And yes, I started falling and having all those self doubts, saying, I'm never going to do it. And then I stopped myself, said, what am I thinking? And what do I want to think instead? And then I told myself, I'm doing my exercises. Look how far I came. I used to have to walk with a walker. Now I'm using a cane, and I'm still doing my exercises. And soon I'm going to be able to walk on my own. And I'm happy to say, most days now, I'm able to walk on my own. I do carry a cane, or sometimes I'll use my husband's hand as a little bit of balance, but that's okay, because you know what? I don't judge other people, and I know other people aren't judging me. And if they do, They're not that important in my life. And that brings me to another point about keeping people in your life who only bring you up, who bring the best out of you, not the people who tear you down, the type of people who want to suck the life out of you. When you notice you keep saying yes, but you really want to say no, that's your trigger. That's your aha moment to say, wait, what am I thinking? Am I doing this because I'm a people pleaser? Am I doing this because I really want to? Or am I doing this because I want people to like me? Or maybe people are just using me. But I'm very fortunate to say that I do have true friends who stuck by me through thick and thin, through everything I've gone through. And even today, they're my biggest cheerleaders. So, one of the other things as I continued through my journey, I had to learn to let go of the past. And when I say that, it doesn't mean forget about everything I went through. It means acknowledge it and be grateful and be proud of it. So, again, changing the way I looked at it. I wasn't a mistake, I was a surprise to my parents. And that's totally different. Yes. And when I looked at the future, I would always go to the worst case scenario. I don't know about other people, but I was a classic worrier. Oh my God, the sky was going to fall down. If I got a phone call, I would rush and think it was always going to be the worst case scenario. What would happen if dot dot dot? Did it matter? No. I would think, oh my goodness, what happens if I fail a course? If I fail a test, I'm going to be nothing in life. I'm so stressed. I'm going to pull my hair out. Well, guess what? I still have hair. So everything I would tell myself or I would make up and I would worry was really just a waste of time. I found out it was really an overactive imagination and it was really fear. And I learned that fear stood for false evidence appearing real. So those things that we look at that really aren't true, but we start making up these stories. And I'm not too sure why we do it, but we make up these stories so we think they're real. And it's to keep us in this state of kind of that fight and flight mode, which really doesn't serve us. So, as I continued going through the different things on my journey, I learned so many more lessons. But one of the things I had to learn was to forgive myself because I was very hard on myself. And I realized, and one of my messages is when we hold resentments, that is really only hurting us. And you may have heard this before, but if you don't forgive someone, it's like giving someone poison and expecting the other person to die. But what you're doing is actually giving yourself poison and expecting them to die. So what you're doing is you're hurting yourself. So once I came to that reality, I realized that when I had to forgive myself or forgive other people, it didn't mean that other people's actions were okay, or it didn't mean that what they did was right. What it meant was it was their decisions and their actions and what they did. But I didn't have to own it. I did nothing wrong, but I can forgive them because I wanted to get rid of the pain that it held over me. And once I did that, I started feeling free. I didn't deserve to live in pain anymore. And I was able to get over that. So, as I was going through getting better, I started realizing, you know what? Conventional medicine isn't always working. I had a hard time getting a doctor. I finally got a neurologist and they were honest. They said they only had four people who lived who had anti GAD. So no neurologist really wanted to take me. And they gave me about 4 years to live. And I'm happy to say today is 6 years. And look at me now. I went from not talking, not walking, to being on an amazing TV show and production, talking with you and being able to walk out that door. Yes, maybe sometimes I have a little bit trouble finding the right words, but you know what? I'm authentic and I'm not going to hide anymore. So I remember when we were giving that diagnosis, though, me and my husband bawled all the way home. We cried because we thought there's no way. And it brought back all that fear from losing my first husband. But instead of holding on to that fear, I used it as a mission to help myself to help others. And I also wanted to heal myself. So to do that, yes, I did IVIG and I followed all the conventional medication, but I started trading in supplements for some of my medication. And it's funny, I learned that raw garlic isn't just for keeping vampires away. I started really diving into the world of natural herbs and supplements, and I started to heal myself more and more. And I remember one of the meetings with my neurologist, they said, well, your levels are going up. Normal levels are under 5. Mine were over 250, and then they skyrocketed to 450. So, of course, they wanted to double my medication. And it was one of the really addicting medications. So instead of that, I thought, what if I double my magnesium? Because I guarantee I'm not going to get addicted to magnesium. And guess what? She says, wow, that is such a great idea. I never thought of that before. So that's exactly what I started doing. I started taking more magnesium and I took different supplements. And I noticed that I became clearer. My thoughts became clearer. I became stronger. I was sick less. I used to be chronically sick. I used to catch anything and everything because my immune was so low. So I know it might sound like woo woo meds, but I think I'm officially part of the woo woo community. So
I
far,
love it.
I decided to research and study natural medicine myself. And I was able to help heal myself. And I'm trying to use myself as an example that we can heal ourselves. And maybe it's not in a way that we're totally going to get better, but it's at least so we can live every day to its fullest. So I also did energy work like Reiki and conscious bars, and there's so many different things. Reflexology. So sometimes I lived really in the box thinking that there's only one way. But once I started opening my ideas to so many different ways of healing, I realized it was like a menu with all new ingredients. This whole new world opened up, and it literally has changed my life. So that's one of my other messages is please don't limit yourself to what you think. Explore anything and everything. And it's interesting that people put you in the right place at the right time. I was struggling one day with what is my purpose? Why am I here? This was after going through another bout of depression. Like I said, it's a roller coaster. It's not like a straight arrow up. And one day my husband said, you haven't got out of the house in a couple weeks. Let's go to the dog park. And because it was about my dog, I said, okay. So I went down to the dog park and I was walking around and I saw this beautiful lady. And she said, Krista? But I didn't recognize her because she didn't have any hair. But as I got closer to her, immediately I recognized her. She was an old friend. Her name was Jen. And I noticed her cancer came back. I knew she had cancer before, but I knew she was in remission. So I sat there with her and I said, oh my goodness, Jen, I didn't realize your cancer came back. But she said, Krista, look at you. I've heard everything you went through. How have you been feeling? But you know what? Instead of saying, everything's great, I'm doing fantastic, I didn't. I was vulnerable. I was honest. And I said, I have my bad days. And sometimes I want to stay in bed and throw the sheets over my head and say, enough, I can't do it anymore. And she looked at me and said, you know what? I feel the same way sometimes.
Wow.
I feel like I have to fake it and have to smile all the time. And I feel that sometimes I have to just keep going on for others. And I never was able to be open and honest with anyone before. I never actually told anyone before my true feelings. And when we left, I gave her a big hug and she looked at me and she says, you have been such an inspiration to me. And it wasn't until I stepped back into my car I realized that was my purpose of the day. It didn't have to be some big spectacular thing. You know, sometimes our purpose can be when we're driving home and we stop for that dog that darted across the street. We don't know that that dog's life might have been a service dog or meant so much to someone's family. That could have been our purpose. Our purpose could have been when we held the door open for somebody, maybe an elderly couple. And when they walked through it, they thought, wow, that made their life and their day that much easier. You see, our purpose is to live life in kindness and in a state of giving each and every moment from moment to moment. It's not just an overall, what's my purpose? And I think we all have a purpose. And one of my purpose here is I know today is to have met you. And that's how the world manifests people into our life. And to be bringing me to you so I can be on the show, so I can spread my message, share my story, work with more people, and share my book with more people so I can hopefully inspire and impact them more.
Wow, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, my beautiful Christa, and thank you for taking the fort. So when we had a little bit problem with the power, but everything is sorted. So may I please play your video?
I would absolutely love to, but before you do, can I say one quick thing? Is that I want
Yes.
to make sure people do not give up hope. And when I mean that, it means heck over pleasing everyone to hold on pain ends. Thank you.
You will have to repeat that again after the video. I
I
just
will.
see I just do. You get so many comments. Thank you, my beautiful Mandy. So let me quickly go and play your video. Here we go.
Hi, I'm Christa Rose, and I'm a certified coach practitioner. I'm a speaker and author of Amazon #1 best-selling book, Skip the Pain, Experience the Pleasure. Cut the crap that's holding you back so you can live the life you love. I do share some of the experiences I went through, surviving head-on collision, holding my husband as he passed away in my arms, and I'm battling a chronic illness. I may have had a near-death experience, but I don't focus on the past.
Krista, I don't know why it is not playing.
I
I'm
don't
going to
know.
try one more. Just give me 1 second.
No problem.
Hi, I'm Christa Rose, and I'm a certified coach practitioner. I'm a speaker and author of Amazon #1 best-selling book, Skip the Pain, Experience the Pleasure. Cut the crap that's holding you back so you can live the life you love. I do share some of the experiences I went through, surviving head-on collision, holding my husband as he passed away in my arms, and I'm battling a chronic illness. I may have had a near-death experience, but I don't focus on the past. Focusing on the past is like writing with a broken pencil. It's pointless. I show you how the secret of life is your mindset and the way you talk. So from working with me, listening to my speeches, or reading my book, it will either change your life or make you feel lighter and you'll have a good laugh. Either way, it's a win-win situation.
Oh, I'm so happy it played now. Thank you, my beautiful one. Do you love your video?
I love my video. Thank you so much. There was a little bit of some, maybe some issues, but with the actual video playing, but it is absolutely beautiful. And I'm glad if you send it to me, I will be able to use it. And I'm so grateful for it.
Oh, thank you so much. I made it with love.
Thank
My
you.
beautiful. Thank you, my beautiful Christa. Can you give us that acronym again and also your golden nugget?
Absolutely. So the acronym is HOPE, and I use it for heck over pleasing everyone, because we spend so much time in our lives doing backflips for everyone else, we forget what we need to do for ourselves. And it leads to hold on pain ends, because no matter what, you need to hold on and it will end. So always remember hope.
Wow, I love that. And your goal is that hope is that your golden nugget?
That is my golden nugget.
Oh wow, I love it. My beautiful Krista, I wrote a beautiful song for all my beautiful diamond beauties. I am still um, praying for a person to come and sing it for us. So I have Dr. Michael Alexander, and he is going to read a small portion of the song. Are you ready to hear?
I am so ready to hear it.
Here we go.
Moments of moving from here to there between the star and the moon's soft glare capture a glimpse of light so rare, radiant and shining, our hearts declare for the world to see in love's grand affair. Moments of our lives that are filled with laughter keep us going, hearts thrilled, capture the essence of who we are in the spirit of a child like a shooting star. Moments to share our true stories so bright, not only for the world to heal, take flight, but to remind us how amazing we are. Forever moving forward, a radiant star to create magic near and far. In the radiance of each heart's soft glow, we find the strength to carry on and grow. Shining bright, our love doth show in every moment, from dusk till dawn's soft flow. Radiant hearts, we shine.
How do you love this song, my beautiful Krista?
The words are amazing. Yes, very powerful.
Wow, thank you. Thank you for being my Soul of a Diamond. As you know, Soul of a Diamond is a big project in my life. It's a big, big dream of mine to have all my beautiful ladies from the Diamond Beauty to come and tell their story on a TV show. And then part of your story, I will write a beautiful article that will go into our amazing Diamond Moment magazine. So you will be in our January issue because we are almost finishing up with December's issue. And then I am working with a publisher. We're gonna see how we can publish your book, but I would love to play you Natalie McQueen's video because she is the sponsor for our show and she's going to help us do the book compilation. And then my beautiful Krista, I want to come and do a documentary on your life. And that's why it's such a big project. I must still get sponsors for that, but I know God will send people my way. As you mentioned, these people come, there's the right time at the right place at you. So let me just quickly play Natalie's video and then we will say our goodbyes.
Hi there, my name is Natalie McQueen. I'm the founder of Gifts of Legacy. I am a book publisher.
Oh no, it doesn't want.
Hi there, my name is Natalie McQueen. I'm the founder of Gifts of Legacy. I am a book publisher and a legacy designer. I am thrilled to introduce my talking journal. This unique journal features recorded messages from 100 trailblazing contributors that we call our masters and mavens. Imagine a journal that you can hold in your hands and get daily prompts of inspiration from these mentor experts. I invite you to be one of our masters and mavens in our first edition on gratitude for $49. This is a low-cost, high-impact alternative to traditional publishing. I cannot wait to hear your inspirational message.
I'm so sorry, Christa. And I thought it was on my side, but it is definitely not on my side. But do you have any last inspiration for the viewers out there before we say goodbye?
I just want people to realize that the most valuable part of life is not the possessions you have, but it's the time and experience and the memories you make with the people you love.
I love it. Thank you for being such an inspiration for me. You are on my mind all the time because you have inspired me. You have blown my socks off, my beautiful one, with all your strength and your courage and your smile, your awesomeness. My beautiful ladies and gentlemen, thank you for viewing our show today. And I know that Christa have blown your socks off as well. In the show notes, you will have all her details. And then I want to say, please look after yourself. Smile often and keep on dancing. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you so much. I'm so honored.